To be a Bills fan is to be forever hopeful. To know that someday, somehow, the Bills will raise the Vince Lombardi trophy. In 2001, we visited Buffalo and came away with a film called A Team, a Town, and a Dream.
Its name comes from the beautiful waters that surround it, and it calls itself the City of Good Neighbors. But for what and whom is Buffalo, New York really known?
President Millard Fillmore lived there. President McKinley was shot there.
1901 Pan American Exposition. Grover Cleveland was president twice. He was sheriff.
He was mayor.
Sheriff of Erie County, governor of New York. And
we have Grover Washington Jr. is from Buffalo.
Great sax player.
And we also have chicken wings.
Oh, Anchor Bar, Frank and Teresa's, Main Street.
Everyone loves a bucket of wings, but a city's identity cannot be based on a piece of poultry. That distinction belongs to the only Buffalo that do roam in Western New York.
The Bills are this town's strongest link to the big time.
And it's Reed. Reed at the 20-yard line, still on his feet, to the 15, down to the 10, to the 5, in for the touchdown.
The Bills put and keep Buffalo on the map nationally.
Every city in the world wants to be recognized for excellence in something. Buffalo has become characterized by this particular sports franchise.
And the Bills are on the brink of making NFL history with a fourth straight American Football Conference championship.
Buffalo smells like a football town. It feels like a football town. The colors, the gray saturation of the climate there, the winds of the lakes, the whole thing reminds you of a football game of the 60s. To walk down the streets of Buffalo with hundreds of people walking to this very industrial, cool stadium that was right there in Buffalo.
In 1960, a fledgling team and an anonymous town first made their acquaintance.
I don't know if you'd ever been in War Memorial Stadium, named the Rock Pile. If you can fill it, you could fill anything. It was the worst stadium in the American Football League.
It may not have been much fun for the players, but the Rock Pile couldn't have been more perfect for the fans.
There were no rules. People would bring kegs of beer, cases of beer. People would bring grills and barbecue grills in the aisles and just pass kegs of beer, tapping it. It was a party. It was a festival.
It's the only place I've ever been to when you walk off after a game, we put our helmets on because you got hit with full beer cans. It was nice, though, because you could, you'd catch one and have one on the way to the locker room. Man, I'll tell you, it was brutal. Sometimes, if you didn't win, they were very ugly.
Never were they uglier than when a certain field goal kicker missed a critical game winner, wide right, of course. The year was 1966, and the kicker's name was Booth Lustig. After rallying from a 17-0 deficit to tie San Diego, the Bills moved into position to win the game. Lustig missed his mark. But 4 fans who saw him walking down the street later that Sunday did not.
I mean, the guys just walking down the street, down Delaware Avenue, and they jumped out of the car and beat him up because he missed a field goal. Should have never missed it.
Buffalo fans were unsparing, but they were also hooked. The Bills and owner Ralph Wilson had given Western New York a reason to believe and a collective identity.
Ralph Wilson was an out-of-towner who took a chance on Buffalo, had faith in Buffalo, and put this city on the map nationally.
Hey, they wanted a football team, and so I was accepted. Some people called me a carpetbagger, but not after we won a game.
And never after they won a championship.
December 26th, 1964. The Buffalo Bills against the San Diego Chargers, and 20-7. I still have the goalpost, and I have the padding of the goalpost and a badge of a rent-a-cop who decided I was not going to have that goalpost. And Jack Kemp led the Bills to victory.
Jack Kemp led the Bills to 2 titles, but his greatest contribution to Buffalo may have come later, when he stayed to represent the town in Congress.
It was like, wow, Kemp's still in Buffalo. That's incredible. He stayed in Buffalo.
It's a great city. I love Buffalo. My wife and I lived in Hamburg, just south of the city. Fabulous city, great people.
But not everyone echoed that sentiment, even after the Bills moved to brand-new Rich Stadium in '73.
Hello again, everyone. This is Howard Cosell from Buffalo, New York, where the atmosphere is gray and heavy and cold. This is the scene set for the first Monday night football game ever to originate from the city of Buffalo.
How do you like our stadium?
Very nice. If we can only get out of here.
We're at the crossroads. And no question about that. But it's not the end of the world. If we die together. You can get it done. You can get it done. What's more, you gotta get it done.
Unfortunately, after 3 straight appearances in the AFL Championship, the Bills hardly ever got it done. They made the postseason only 4 times in the next 21 years. The team's futility did not wear well on a city struggling with its image.
I was 16 years old, very young, and I moved to New York. And somebody said to me once, "Where are you from?" And I said, "From Buffalo." And they went, they were mocking the city, which seemed to be a loser town. And this particular loser town had a football team that was losing a lot of games. The economy going down and people not working well and there not being a lot of money there, it made the focus of a football franchise that was not doing well seem brutal, painful.
One of the things I found after a few years of living here was that there was a tremendous sense of inferiority, I think, with people.
There's no reason for the people in this community to have an inferiority complex because it is a great place to live, but for some reason they do. That's why I think the Bills are an all-consuming entity here.
Buffalo's got a spirit, talking proud, talking proud.
Buffalonians wear their hearts on their sleeves, and that sleeve is on a Bills shirt.
Such attachment can be a risky proposition, though, for a town with a fragile psyche. In 1980, fans starved for a winner tore down the goalpost after the season opener. A decade later, another goalpost and a football sailing just wide of it threatened to send the entire region into depression.
Scott Norwood. He can fire the shot heard round the world now. High drama here in the Super Bowl.
I think one of the most remarkable things I've ever witnessed was after that Super Bowl loss to the Giants, Super Bowl 25, this crowd jams Niagara Square for basically what was a loser's rally, but the feeling of winning and the spirit of support was overwhelming. And then when they chanted for Scott to come out, I mean, you would think that they'd be chanting for him to come out so they could lynch him.
For 25 years after the Booth Lustig incident, Buffalonians had an altogether different reaction to Scott Norwood's misfortune.
You know, we're struggling with this right now, and you know I am, but I know I've never felt more love than right now.
And so began one of the most bittersweet chapters in football history. In one 4-year span, the Bills soared to unprecedented heights and sunk to intolerable depths.
The Bills have written history. This has just been a horrible and horrendous nightmare for the Bills. And they are going back to the Super Bowl. What a way to end a tremendous season.
But always, the Bills' worst failures revealed their greatest strength.
Resilience. We had a resilience for the game, a love for the game, a belief in one another. We could count on one another to go back year after year after year, prepare, do whatever it took to get back to the big dance.
Fellas, listen up. All you ever asked for is an opportunity. You got it today. Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Marv Levy loves history, loves Winston Churchill. I sent him a picture one time of Mr. Churchill giving the victory sign during World War II, and he had that famous saying, never give in, never, 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 never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of your enemy. And I signed it, dear coach, he was talking about you.
Let's go, guys. We're going to knock their ass off.
Like Winston Churchill, head coach Marv Levy used words to inspire his troops.
Fight on, my men, Sir Andrew said. A little I'm hurt, but not yet slain. I'll just lie down and bleed a while, and then I'll rise and fight again.
We can overcome, baby. We can overcome this.
Fittingly, the Bills' crowning achievement was also one of the greatest comebacks in NFL history. They rallied from a 32-point deficit to defeat Houston in the '92 playoffs.
Bills can win it here. White puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. Incredible. What a comeback by the Bills.
Through it all, Buffalonians stood by their team, though their prayers always seemed to fall on deaf ears.
And so now it's in God's hands. God is good. God is just. Please, God, make 3 a charm. Our time has come. Go Bills. My colleague Tom Brokaw said, you can't pray on the public airwaves. You Irish Catholics from South Buffalo are shameless. I said, Brokaw, you'll see. Our time has come. We're going to win. And we lost. And I went back to the hotel, and there standing at the bar drinking a long neck beer is Brokaw, who looks across the room and says, hey, Russert, I guess God's a Southern Baptist.
Until they win a Super Bowl, until the city that I'm from, until the Buffalo Bills go all the way, I'll always feel like a loser.
I always thought the Buffalo Bills were about the most overrated thing I'd ever seen. I think they totally lucked out. It was like winning Miss America when, you know, Miss California, New York, Texas, Michigan, and Ohio were sick. You know, I think it was the worst era of AFC football that we've ever had. And it was always like, well, isn't anybody going to go to the Super Bowl? All right, send the Bills. Yeah, it's sad the Bills never won a Super Bowl, but I'm not sure they ever deserved it.
It's sad to say, but I think that the way that we're going to be remembered is the losers of 4 straight Super Bowls. But there's another way of looking at it. I don't think there will be another team in the history of the National Football League that will be able to achieve 4 straight Super Bowl appearances.
I don't think we belong where the Super Bowl champions belong, but I think we belong among some of the greatest teams that ever played. We're awesome.
Some people say losers. 4 Super Bowls lost them. Other people will say resiliency. You're a native of Buffalo. How do you feel about them?
Being a Buffalo Bills fan really isn't being a fan, it's a way of life. Last year, Ralph Wilson asked me to go back to Buffalo and talk at the community luncheon, which opens the season. And all the players are there. And I said, when you go out on that field, I know you're playing for your pride, I know you're playing for your career, but you're also playing for this life called Buffalo, this life that it represents people who honestly believe that against all the odds, against some of the worst weather imaginable, they have a magnificent life that they're proud of.
Where would you rather be than right here, right now? Game day program here for the coldest game in Buffalo Bills history.
This is a Bills game. Like that. That's the whole game is that. You're just going, and then you jump up, yeah! You know, yeah! That's watching a football game in Buffalo. But they do it, and girls do it. Isn't that nice? How nice is it a city where you could take a girl to that? She puts the plastic bags on, she puts the batteries in her socks, and you go as a couple. The most beautiful thing that you can do is go and freeze to death and watch a Bills game.
It was a great deal of joy playing for a town that was filled with a lot of blue-collar workers. We were out there busting our butts, doing everything we possibly could to bring a championship to that particular area.
The Bills are worshipped in Buffalo, but perhaps no fan is more devoted to the cause than Jan Gallo, Vincent's mother.
In Buffalo, we love Jim Kelly!
In Vincent Gallo's movie Buffalo 66, Angelica Houston portrays Jan Gallo. Matching Mrs. Gallo's devotion to the Bills may have been the greatest challenge of Houston's distinguished career.
New York. 30 years I haven't missed a game. I haven't won a championship since 1966. And I missed that game because that's the day I had Billy. Oh.
You know, it's a very, very, very sad thing.
I wish I never had him. I wouldn't miss that game.
He's going to have to live with that the rest of his life.
My real mother is much more that character than in the film. She's absurd. The house is a shrine to the Bills.
I always tell the kids they could never get married during a Bills game because their mother would never come.
I certainly never got the attention that the Bills did in our family.
I missed a game in '84. My husband had an open heart surgery. I had no choice. He had a heart attack.
Hopefully, he wasn't watching this game in the 1999 playoffs.
Neal, and he throws a lateral, and down the sideline, only Christie down there to stop the play, and they're going all the way with it. It's Dyson going for the touchdown. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This is insanity.
Yeah.
You look back at that football game, you shake your head and say, boy, when are the Buffalo Bills going to get out from this snake-bitten dark cloud that just sort of hangs around them? They can get so close, and then all of a sudden somebody snatches something away from them.
A lot of people feel that there's this mass conspiracy to keep this town from winning a championship.
Kelly's going to throw. Here's Haley. Hit him.
You know that that's false. It makes no sense. I've heard them. I mean, I've heard people share these theories. It's like everybody's Oliver Stone around here.
Further contributing to the conspiracy theories and confusion is the recent history of O.J. Simpson. He may be the greatest Buffalo Bill ever, but rarely is he thought of as a football player anymore.
It was a blow, and it left people feeling pretty empty and I think betrayed.
Not our O.J., not the man who had brought so much excitement. It was eerie for my son and I to go to the Hall of Fame last year in Canton and walk through these bronze monuments to Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr and men of character and dignity, and then you get to O.J. Simpson and you stop. I didn't think about 92-yard runs. I thought about the crime. It really does alter your whole perspective and puts things into a focus that is very uncomfortable.
When you look back at all the things that have happened to the Bills, do you think that this is a team that, and this sounds like a cliche, that's cursed?
We're blessed.
You're blessed?
Yeah. Yeah, we're blessed. If you walk through the streets of Buffalo, it's the Irish neighborhood, the Italian neighborhood, the Polish neighborhood, the black neighborhood, the Hispanic neighborhood. Everyone comes together on a Sunday. It's a common bond.
Buffalo on a Sunday afternoon, baby! Yeah!
We lose, we hate it, we take it personally, we feel the rejection. Those Super Bowls, oh, God. Whenever the Bills would play Dallas, I'd say, Dallas doesn't need this. They have big oil and big blonde hairdos and big skyscrapers. They have their own identity, and they play the Redskins. Washington doesn't need this. You have the White House and the Pentagon and the Congress. Buffalo, we have the Bills. That's who we are. Sometimes we feel inferiority complex, but in the end, we know that also being a Buffalonian means getting up, dusting yourself off, and going back in.
That's kind of the American way. A lot of times you get knocked right to your knees, and the people that are made of something, and that's what our countries were made of, they get right back up and get right back at it. And I think that transcends into people's life each and every day. Someday our ultimate goal is going to be reached because our perseverance is there. We'll never, ever stop trying to win this thing.
If there's one play that symbolizes Buffalo's spirit, it's this one by Don Beebe, who lost 4 Super Bowls with the Bills before finally winning one with the Packers.
Five's a charm, especially for Don Beebe. I'm gonna wear that ring this time.
I'm standing behind Brett about 10, 12 yards, and he kneels down and it's finally over. I walked up to Brett, and I turned and looked at me, gave me the ball, and he says, man, he says, you deserve it. In winning that game, I was winning it, not just for myself, not just for my family, but winning it for all of Western New York, the Buffalo Bill players, organization, and fans.
All people wanted in Buffalo was just once to say, yes, our time has come. It's so magical. I can't tell you. One day, it's going to happen. The Bills are going to win the damn Super Bowl. I'm telling you, we're going to get it.
You know, I hope it happens for my poor mother soon, because her life, she's just been waiting. It's as if she's like a spinster who's been waiting to get married or something. You know, it's painful. It's so painful for her.
I think the greatest story for the league, for this country, is the Bills winning a championship, because I don't know where a championship could be appreciated more, celebrated more. I mean, I think about what a Super Bowl parade would be like in Buffalo in the middle of January with the weather likely unpleasant, and you would know it. I think there'd be, you know, all these people without shirts on, men, maybe some women too, I don't know, dancing in the streets and celebrating, and the heat of the celebration would probably melt whatever snow or ice was in the city.
They'd go crazy. Go crazy. Buffalo, they'll win it someday. You know, they're not cursed.
It would be the brass ring, ecstasy. The one thing that, you know, everybody would say, well, now I'm ready to leave the earth even. You know, the Bills have finally won a Super Bowl.
You know, I'm gonna be there, and it's gonna feel good, and I'm never gonna feel like a loser again.
The Bills have won a Super Bowl for the first time in their history.
Incredible, unbelievable, pandemonium. It is a sea of joyous humanity, and this place is just absolutely gone wild.
This crowd just wants to stand and savor the greatest moment in Buffalo sports history.
You gotta believe, and the Bills did.